Hello, my dudes. Wow, it's been a minute since my last podcast, which we're not surprised by, are we? Today's episode is a little bit different. I'm going to give you a quick intro because we've got a long chat for you today. For those of you who are new to the podcast, please feel free to check out other episodes that are usually just me talking to myself, but occasionally I have another guest, and I want to change things up maybe for future episodes, but whatever. Today, I am talking with D'Angelo Wallace, who is one of my favorite YouTubers, and it was awesome to be able to have the chance to chat with him about YouTube and commentary and all of the things that we love. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's get the frick into it. Hi, D'Angelo.
Hey, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for coming onto my channel. I'm so excited to be able to speak with you for the first time. I think I got to know you about a year ago. I looked back on our DMs. And,
yeah, that sounds right.
That was right around the time when you kind of started your commentary videos. Mm-hmm. But I remember like watching your first video and already noticing like how good you were and how well it fit into the genre. And I was just like, all right, this is a great channel. And then you messaged me to like film something for that one video. And I was like, oh my God, fangirling. So this is super fun. A pleasure. You just turned 22. Happy birthday.
Yeah, the day before yesterday, actually. Thank you.
I cannot believe you're so young. But then, I mean, what is age on the internet especially?
Exactly.
I saw in one of your videos that you mentioned that you got your bachelor's degree at 19.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Okay, that's when I started college, and I'm still finishing, and I'm about to turn 25. That makes
It's all a scam. It's all a scam.
Why do you think it's a scam?
It's not necessarily a scam, but I just feel like if college courses were a bit more streamlined and there was less stuff that I'm never ever going to use, everyone could finish so much faster. But, you know, the more courses you have to pay for, the more textbooks you have to buy, etc.
Yeah, that's true. I know. I went through like a whole transfer process, so I like lost a bunch of credits. And
No.
So when you're coming back into a new school and they're like, oh, here's our gen ed, it's very different than your last school. It's like, oh, cool.
Oh my gosh.
Let me just take these kind of all over again. I feel like I've taken like intro to film classes at least 5 times now. So initially I wanted to ask what your major was in college, but then I found out that it was film production.
Yes, indeed. Bachelor's in Mass Communication with a concentration in digital film and television production, which is like the longest way ever of saying film production. That's all it was.
I love that. And I was actually a film major as well in my first college before I transferred. So I wanted to ask you some questions about being a film major.
Okay.
I felt like not the typical film student because like in my classes they'd be like, oh, who's your favorite director? What's your favorite movie? And I'd be like, to be honest, like I really like Billy Madison. And they're like, Adam Sandler? You're not allowed to like Adam Sandler. Did you feel like you like fit in as a film student or like didn't meet that typical trope?
Yeah, because I just really like sci-fi movies, like things people would consider not high art, if you will. So I always felt like I had to hide the fact that I just thought movies were cool and I didn't have some sort of deep love for the art of cinema. I'm just doing it because it's fun, and what's cooler than going to the movies and watching a cool movie? But yeah, I would just basically like, I would try to frame my sci-fi interests as philosophically as possible when in reality it was just Star Trek.
Right. Did you think that you were going to like work in the film industry, or like what was your plan with that?
Oh, I knew it. I knew that the moment I finished college, I was going to continue into a master's program actually, and then become some sort of role in like production, and I was going to work on shows and I was going to work my way up. And it's funny because deep down, that's not something I like wanted to do. It's just I was in a film program. I was spending a bunch of money to go to college to learn film. So of course that's what I was gonna do, but so glad that didn't work out. Imagine.
Dude, I had a similar kind of experience. Well, in my freshman year, I think we had these seminars where they'd invite like guest speakers, and they would all come and be like, oh yeah, I went to film school just like you guys, graduated with a lot of debt, and now I just like work this like completely unrelated role, or like I'm an assistant, I barely pay my bills, and then sometimes I get to work on my passion projects, and I'm like,
oh my god,
is that what we have to look forward to? They're like, yeah, if you guys think you're all going to be like a writer director, it's not going to happen. I was like, all right, cool. It's like, I don't know if I should be in this program because I'm also not down to like work on a film set for like 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do that. I'm too tired.
Right. And I'm going to be fully honest, I'm not social enough for that either.
Oh, no.
No way. Not that many people. Like, you look at a film set and it's just people buzzing around. That would just send my anxiety levels through the roof. But yeah, I thought I would swallow it and do it every day anyway.
Did you enjoy the program though, at least?
Yes, mostly because I had fantastic professors and amazing friends who were also really into it as well. Without the actual people, the program would have been really worthless to me because I learned everything I do in my videos from YouTube, not from school. But
Wow,
it was
yeah.
absolutely worth it just because of the people I encountered there.
Wow, that's cute. Okay, so, yes, I wanted to know, are you now a full-time YouTuber? I assume so.
Yes, actually, I've been a full-time YouTuber ever since April 2019, so very
wow.
excited about that.
That
Yeah.
is exciting. I think I became a full-time YouTuber, or at least realized, wow, this can actually pay my rent, probably like January of 2019, so same time. What were you doing before that?
Yeah, I was working a very low-paying service job, actually, in the midst of me looking for a job in my, field. But all the time, I was uploading weekly, actually, because I was like, maybe if I just treat YouTube like it's my job, then it'll turn into my job. So at the expense of like the small part-time job I was working, I started hitting it weekly. And that's back when I was doing art videos. And I was like, I'm going to pretend like this is my real job. And I'm just going to the part-time one for the money. And soon enough, I legitimately saw it start to flip. And then once my income levels kind of switched and it was like more from YouTube, I was like, okay, now I can breathe. Now I can pay for, human necessities. And now I can focus on YouTube. It was really nice, actually. But it was hard.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't easy because it was pretty much like working a part-time job while working at YouTube full-time. I had to make it my job first, which I think is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's intense. So with your background in art and film production, how does that affect your YouTube process?
It absolutely ties into it, just from the writing perspective. Even though, oddly enough, the program was titled Film Production, it was also a new-ish program, so the professors that they hired were good writers, not like actual producers. So whereas I didn't get much, in the way of this is how you set up a shot, this is how you, frame things in an interesting way, I got everything I needed in the way of, hey, this is how you write down the idea and then present it visually. This is how you break things down in a way that other people will understand. So every single day that I'm doing this and I'm writing, I'm absolutely drawing from, what I learned when I was in school. Now, as far as the visual side of things, they just, nothing. We had a total of 2 good cameras, and all the rest of the cameras were terrible. You had to rent, special blocks of time. So I really didn't learn anything about, how to operate a camera from school. So that's where YouTube came in and all the editing and stuff. I was just, binging tutorials. I was like, I'm going to have better editing. I'm going to learn how to do this, even though I should have legitimately been taught how to do this already. It's fine. So yeah, a mix of the writing I got from school and the editing I got from YouTube, and it came together pretty well, I would say.
That's really great. Yeah, I think I had similar experiences. Like, they would take us like kind of a shitty camera, a big clunky tripod, and be like, just go play with it with like a group of people. And everyone's like, cool, like nice. And yeah,
Yes.
you never really learn anything that way. But I think having YouTube experience did help me at least with like editing for sure, and planning videos. I was like, I do this all the time, sure. And that's definitely a very useful thing. Were you doing YouTube at all while you were in school? No, that would have been before, right?
It was actually towards the very end. Like, in my last semester, one of the videos I uploaded got the most views I'd ever gotten, which was legitimately like a couple thousand. And and so I remember, like, I'll never forget my friends walking past one day and they were like, oh, your YouTube channel is doing really well. And I was like, it's not doing that well. And they were like, it has 3,000 subscribers. And like, they thought that was so many. Of course, I knew. I was like, well, I'm sure I could get more than 3,000 if I tried. But yeah, that was me making it in school. Getting 3,000 subscribers was like enough for people to be like, wow, that's so cool. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, no, it was only towards the very end, which is probably for the best too, because I tend to really put everything into whatever my focus is at the time. That's why when I take breaks from YouTube, I'm like gone. Like, I'm not like kind of uploading here and there. If I take a break, I'm devoted my energy to something else. So yeah, it couldn't have coincided. So I think the timing of everything was kind of perfect.
Yeah, that's so funny. First of all, I respect your ability to like take a real break. I feel like it's the scariest thing on YouTube to like leave and not post weekly because people are like, oh, where are you? But also the algorithm is probably going to punish you, or at least that's what we expect. So
Yes.
I feel like it's so hard to leave and be like, okay, for whatever reason, I need a break. I'm going to take time off. But like, I feel like that, at least for me, like that nagging feeling is in the back of my head. Like, yo, you need to upload. It's been 10 days. It's been 14 days. And then it makes it so much harder to come back with a video because then I'm like, I forgot how to make a video somehow.
Yeah. No, it's happened before. The algorithm has severely dinged me. I think, thankfully, I have enough subscribers, like people who really enjoy watching my content, not just subscribers, but like,
Right.
you know, fans and viewers. I'm fine now. Like, if I take a break, they know I'm coming back. But back when I don't remember how many subscribers, but I came back and I got 20,000 views. And that was after I had been consistently getting 40,000. So I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, half of my audience disappeared because I took a mental health break. That's terrifying. But I was like, the next time it came up and I was like, I need to take a break, I was thinking, you know what? I did this. I lost half of my audience and I survived and I have more of it than ever. So if I lose half of it again, so be it. Thankfully, it didn't happen again. But it took the experience of getting like pushed down in the algorithm for me to be like, I guess it's not the end of the world. You know, I'm still lucky enough to make enough to pay my rent. So even if it's not as exciting as it is to get 40,000 views instead of 20,000, I think I'm still going to be okay because at least I'm putting out good content. You know what I mean? And, but now, of course, I get like more than 40,000. So it evened out in the end.
Casual. Yes, a little more than 40,000. That's so funny because, I feel like, well, first I get so scared. Like when my videos or my channel is like doing well and you're like, oh, cool, like every video is getting better. Then you're like, all right, this is great. We're going to continue on this growth trajectory. And then literally it just drops off a fucking cliff. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I just have to remember this is how things work. It's fine. But I can't help but like, well, first of all, the creator studio does not help because it'll tell you like your video's doing shit. And I'm like, I know. Thank you.
This is the 10th worst video you've posted out of 10.
I know. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, I'm not always going to be at my peak, but YouTube's like, yeah, you should be. Every video should be better.
Right.
And it's so exhausting.
That's so unrealistic, by the way. Like
I
the
know.
thought that everything should be bigger than the last. Like, how could that even really theoretically work?
I still aim for it though, or at least I'm changing my metrics. I'm like, okay, I need to aim for at least like fourth. Is that okay?
Yes, I think that's a good way of looking at it.
I feel like my best measure is when my videos are doing really well, my mom texts me and my little brother texts me and they're both like, oh, you got this many views overnight. And I'm like, yeah, cool. And then I get used to it and I'm like, oh, 200,000 views in a day? Awesome. And then I flop. And then they stop texting me. And that's when I know I'm like, wow, I'm not making the family proud anymore. I'm a disappointment.
Yes, indeed. Oh my gosh.
If my mom's watching this, please text me after every video. It helps my confidence.
Even if it's 30 views, just help me out.
I know. I'm like, wow, 30 views overnight. Thanks. I also wanted to ask first of all, about your background in art. How did that happen? Because I had to first assume that you'd be like an art major or like a graphic design major. And I wanted to know how that impacts your like aesthetic of your videos or your editing or just everything that you put into your channel.
Yeah, I'm very much into like art, design, all of that. In a way, I consider myself an artist first. It's funny because I see the comments, because I used to be an art channel. I see a lot of comments and they're like, oh yeah, he used to be an artist. And I'm like, well, actually,
You're like, still an artist. Thank you.
Right.
First and foremost.
No, for me, this is all kind of in service to that. Like right now, I feel like this is the right time to be doing YouTube, but at some point, it's going to be the right time to do art because that's how I started off. This right now is my job, but in the future, I'm going to create like bigger long-term projects. And I at one point made the decision to stop posting art-related content, but I certainly didn't take like the art out of my videos. I really like picking a theme and sticking with it. Like right now, the theme is like very stripped back, black and white, because I think that's visually appealing and kind of useful for these longer videos I'm making. It's better for it to be like black and white, legitimate, like literally black and white, so you can kind of see the content and you just get what you need. But yeah, if I was just switch back to shorter videos, I might find a new theme. Even the things in my room right now, I've recently purchased most of this just to fit the black and white. So yeah, even if I was uploading content that was about the most artless thing I can think of, if it was car reviews, I would still try to make them artistic.
I know. I think that's something that, again, it's like that classic film school thing where it's like oh, if the editing is really good, you won't even notice it. And I feel like that kind of is like how your aesthetics and your like editing feel to a viewer is like, you're like, okay, I know this is really good and this is like elevated in some way compared to a lot of commentary or whatever kind of videos, but I don't think people like can really pinpoint everything unless they wanted to go like frame by frame through every video, which would take a little while. So I love that. And I'm jealous because like I have the worst sense of like visual taste. Everything is ugly and I'm just like incapable of making things look nice. So
the pastels,
I struggle.
you use pastels a lot, and I think it really fits with the colors of the frame in your room, so you've tied it together pretty well, if you ask me.
That was completely arbitrary, so happy accident. I had a breakdown recently about the fonts that I use. I was like, is this too basic? Every time I go to design a thumbnail, I'm like, this is hideous. It reminds me of like 2012 YouTube, and I don't know how to improve that, so I'm always struggling. Oh yeah, I also wanted to ask about your strategy for titles. I think the way you title videos is very interesting, and I think like your titles are they're like a statement. Like, let me see this one. Jeffree Star faked everything about ... well, comma, everything. I was like, that is such a good fucking title. Because like, I would never think of that. And I feel like personally my titles are all very like, they're usually very descriptive, which is kind of lame, I think. Like, it's kind of boring. And I wish I could think of more creative but like enticing titles. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I want people to know it's about this and this and this. But I feel like that doesn't have the same draw as yours, or like the exact moment Shane Dawson's career ended.
Right.
So good.
Yeah, actually, I spend a lot of time on my titles because I feel like, well, that's it. That's all you've got. I can put weeks into a video. I can put like an hour's worth of content into a video, but all anyone is going to see is the title and thumbnail. So I really have to nail it. I sometimes will spend hours or even days mulling over like, how does this look? I'll Photoshop it and look at it and I'm like, this is not interesting. But the way I come up with it basically is it's like a mix of headlines and conversational. So like if it was, I really think of it like if it was a headline about Jeffree Star, then it would say something like, YouTuber Jeffree Star called out for faking recent, controversies. That would work as a title, but to me, that's not interesting. I feel like if I click onto that, I'm going to get very news story. So I could put my opinion, just like solely my opinion. It could be like, hey, I think Jeffree Star is kind of weird. Okay, that's a bit interesting. In my opinion, it's more conversational, certainly true to what I feel, but you might look at that and think, oh, this is probably a rant. Like, it's really long and it has a very personal statement in the title. So I don't know what this is. I don't care about this person's opinion. But yeah, when I like kind of push it together and I'm like, Jeffree Star faked everything about, well, everything. Then it kind of turns into a question. It's like, what do you mean everything? Who is this? Who wrote this title? You know what I mean? It's like pulled from obviously a larger collection of ideas. So that's kind of how I try to look at my titles.
Oh my God, that's going to make me have even more of a breakdown than I already do. I feel like, I don't know how long it takes you. Obviously, these videos have taken you like weeks of research and everything to put together, but my typical videos are like every like 10 days. And it feels like such a tiring process already. Like once you're writing and changing the script and then filming, editing forever and watching the video for the 20th time. I feel like by the time I get to like the title and thumbnail, I'm like, oh fuck, I just want the video to be posted. But that is the most important part. And that's like, I'm like, wow, is that why they're flopping? Relative,
Relatively speaking.
Me judging myself and the YouTube Creator Studio judging myself is flopping. Wow. I'm like, can I like ask you thoughts on titles, because I need help with that.
No, I'm super down for that. Actually, people do ask me. They like send me thumbnails and they're like, how does this look? And I'm like, maybe you're not really giving enough information, or I can't really tell what this video is about. Maybe you should rearrange this. So totally down.
That on its own could be like its own job. If I could have an assistant that would just help me and just have the eye for it, that would be indeed priceless and very valuable. Okay, let's finally get into your YouTube history. We talked a little bit about how you started as an art channel and then you kind of switched to commentary overnight. I'll ask you about that in a second. But I think that you could argue that your art videos kind of already were commentary.
Yes.
Art commentary, but also art with commentary. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started off just purely drawing videos, like ooh, I followed this tutorial, or this is how you draw this thing in black and white. And it was like really basic stuff. But I noticed towards the end of it, I felt more like speaking about things that were happening in the art community, because I'm much more interested in talking about people. I like creating art, but there's only so much you can say about it, you know what I mean? So towards the end of it, I kind of realized, oh, I made this entire video, but now I gotta draw for it. It was like the opposite of my process. I was legitimately just shoving the art in there so it could stay in there. And I had racked up a bunch of sponsorships, and they were like, yes, art video, this. And I realized if I am here creating entire videos around commentary, and then I'm just trying to cram the art and the sponsors in here so that it fits in the niche, shouldn't I just drop it? Because it's certainly going to start to show that I'm not doing this in the right order. So yeah, I made the hard switch. It was very difficult to tell all of my sponsors, hey, I'm not going to do anything that I agreed to do. You're just going to have to see this new direction of content, and if you want to come back, that's fine. And they all did. But I just made the hard switch. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to announce it, because I feel like a lot of YouTubers, they might be like, hey guys, how have you felt about this recent content, that I've been putting out? And then they would kind of judge that. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm the one making the videos. You know what I mean? It's really up to people to watch them or not. And I really believe that people were not watching me to learn how to draw. I really believed that people were watching me because they wanted to know what I had to say. So I took that risk, and thankfully it did work out. I really didn't lose much of my audience at all, so.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And I love that you didn't want that like outright validation, but more like, oh, the validation will be in the views, or like if people just seem to like these videos, then I'll keep going. I love that. That's wild. Were there like certain commentary channels that you were watching that like made you want to make commentary, or was it just your own natural like need to talk about things? I like throughout my whole YouTube channel career, whatever, I really loved like ranting, and I loved like sharing my opinion. I feel like there was a point where I was like, I don't want to talk about myself anymore, and I don't want to make these like rants about like things because I don't need to be angry, but I do like talking about YouTube, and I feel like there's a lot to say here, and that's how I like accidentally started making my internet analysis videos. I didn't even plan to make that the title of the series. I just said one time, I was like, oh, this video is kind of like an internet analysis thing, and then it just stuck, and it was kind of the same where like overnight my channel went from like like random personal videos, lifestyle-ish, to like I'm doing internet analysis, I'm a commentary channel only. And yeah, some of my channel or my viewers still miss like my personal videos. Yeah. But I'm like, hey, there's a vlog channel for that. There's my podcast that I haven't done in 6 months, but it's there.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's a relatable thing.
I think the main channels I was watching, because I was in a similar boat. I definitely knew I wanted to talk about things, but it raised the question of how do you talk about things on YouTube? Because obviously, if I'm in conversation, I just say what I have to say, you say what I have to say. We do what we're doing right now. But it doesn't like translate to a 10-minute video. So I was like, how do you take a concept and explain your feelings and give a background, blah, 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 in a short amount of time? And then that's kind of at the same time I discovered, like, Danny Gonzalez, Drew Gooden, Curtis Connor, that whole crowd, that whole brand, Cody Code, Noel Miller. And that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is it. This is the thing. I didn't realize this was a genre. People were just talking about weird things.
Yes.
So that's when I was kind of like, this doesn't seem very hard at all. And that was actually before I made the switch. So I started making literal art commentary videos. I would like, hey, let's talk about this weird art channel trend of doing weird things in your thumbnails and then they're not showing up in the videos. And like that was legitimately a commentary video. There was no drawing in there. And those were doing really well. So I was like, you know what? There's a world beyond art. There are analytics beyond the art community. I am just ready to step out into it, and whatever happens, happens.
I love that. And I think that's the thing that got me about commentary too, was like I realized the topics I wanted to cover were things that I wanted to hear about. And I was like, oh, I don't know, like there isn't like a place for people to discuss this very niche topic. But like I think I'm interested, and I think other people might be. And then a video will like do really well, and you're like, oh shit, there were like hundreds of thousands or millions of people who wanted to hear about this. Okay. And I think it's like a great way to continue the conversation in like a very meta way, but also to take YouTube seriously, because I think that's something that's very lacking in a lot of like mainstream journalism or coverage. It's like, oh, look at these weird internet trends, or like, look at these terrible people like Jake Paul. But there's so much more to YouTube, and it's great to have native people here to like dissect everything. And I'm so glad to see commentary as a genre expanding so rapidly. I don't know if it might have been there before, but I didn't like know until I started making these videos. I started watching more people. People were like, oh, check out this channel. And now I'm like, I can't watch anything except commentary. Or mostly. But then I'm also like, what is commentary? Like, almost everything's commentary. And some channels that I consider to be commentary might not consider themselves to be. But like, if you consider that it's just essentially opinion videos with arguments, then like that pretty much encompasses a lot. I wanted to talk about the 10-minute limit of your videos on your first channel. When I first found your first commentary video, I was like, wow, this is very interesting. And then I noticed that they were all 10 minutes. And I was like, how does he do this? How does he organize this with all of the necessary information, but still wrap it up in this perfect 10-minute time limit? And I was amazed, because I cannot, even if I script a video to be 15 minutes, it ends up being 30. So I'm like, how the fuck do you go about doing this? So I'd love to hear what made you want to do 10-minute videos. And even you were doing it with your art videos before commentary,
It's funny because it's a mix of things. On the one hand, because in the very beginning, I was close to 10 minutes. Maybe I'd have a 12-minute, whatever. Because that's just kind of where my content fell. If I said everything I want to, it fell around that 10 to 15-minute range. But I was telling my friends, like, wouldn't it be so funny if I just only uploaded 10-minute videos? Like, everyone knows I'm doing this for the money, but what if I just let them know this is legitimately just as much as I need for an ad break? And of course, that's the joke, but internally for me, it's not just the ad break at all. It's more so like, what can I put in 10 minutes? Can I talk about someone's entire channel in 10 minutes? Can I react to, for me, the highlight was reacting to a 5-hour and 30-minute documentary series in 10 minutes, and people still know what I'm talking about. So every video became like, how am I going to cut this down to 10 minutes? How am I going to make sure you have everything you need? And a lot of that came from school as well, because one of the biggest things my professors told me was, you have to be willing to get rid of what you have created, which is not something, I don't think that's innately like in creative people like us. Like, we want to say everything, we want to have it all out there. We don't want to delete work. Right. We don't want to kill our dogs. I hate it too. But in school, they hammered us over the head with that, in my opinion, for the best. So at this point, I'm fine. If I thought it was funny and it was good and it fit the video, I'm still going to cut it out if it doesn't serve my grand goal of reaching that 10-minute mark. And then by the end of it, because I've cut out all the unnecessary content, I've cut out all the bad jokes, and then I've even cut out some of the good jokes, but they're not necessarily like, hitting. Then I'm really left with what I feel like is just the information you need and just the entertainment you need. And then I can see reflected in like my retention. It's usually in that 50 to 60% range on those 10-minute videos. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm at a good middle ground. I think I'm giving people all they need. And it makes it easier for me too, because it's like, back when I was uploading often, it's hard to upload weekly in the first place. But especially if you're talking about content longer than 10 minutes, it's draining, So it was nice. It's like a limit, and it's a bit of freedom at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say at first, I was like, is this just a gimmick to be like, oh, 10 minutes, but like exactly 10:01, and you're like really fast outro. But yeah, then I was like, well, managing your workload would help, because you naturally just have to minimize everything to the bare essentials of the video. And I admire that. And again, I feel like this is like inspiring me in my own videos, because sometimes when I'm scripting and it becomes this like massive bloated topic, I'm like, okay, I need to cut some shit out, but I don't know what, and then that undoes every other connection. So yeah, I feel like it's a good lesson in like, figuring out what is most important and what's needed, and being able to cut out some of your jokes that don't quite land. I loved though, in that pacing, you would obviously make a joke and then immediately continue. There was no time for like reflecting on it. And I love when jokes are just quick cut and then you move on and you're like, wait, and then you have to like rewind it and listen again. That's great.
Yeah, actually I took that from my favorite shows like Superstore, The Office, 30 Rock. There's a lot of that where it's just like heavy hitting back to back to back, and it almost starts to become nonsensical in a way. It's
Yeah.
just like a fever dream of information and insane people. And I'm just like, that's interesting. I love consuming content like that. So yeah, in a way, I think it's people don't know what to expect. And then you click into one of my 10-minute videos and it's just like, so much is happening. By the end of it, you've learned about this thing that you never wanted to hear. You've heard everything you need to know about it. I think it's like, it's perfect.
And because it's 10 minutes, I'm sure there are still some commenters, because you'll always get people like, oh, you had to talk about this for so long. You had to make a 20-minute video about this. I'm like, or like, I love when people in the YouTube comments go like if it's like a 10 things you need to know about this video, they'll like list it out for you and be like, don't waste your time. And I'm like, why are you watching a video? Go read a listicle if you want that.
Right.
I don't get it. But yeah, I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, the commenters think some of them, the commenters that think they could format your video better than you can always kill me. Or when they're like, oh, the video starts at this amount of time. And
exactly.
I'm like, actually, it starts at 000.
I'm like, actually, the intro is very important because I'm introducing shit, and also give me my watch time. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. So after that, you did start a second channel, which
yes.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but it seemed like you were starting it for a little bit more freedom outside of that 10-minute like main channel constraint. But didn't you say that you started to post daily, or you wanted to post a video daily on your second channel?
That was, first of all, that was a mistake. But yes, I thought I was like, I really just enjoy talking about these things. And if I didn't have to edit it so much, I'm sure I could talk about so much more. So I started putting out daily content. But my issue with that is that I'm not a perfectionist. I'm actually okay with putting something out that's good enough. But I also do too much regardless. So I was making these daily videos on the scale of my weekly videos. And I would even get comments like, wow, you're doing like what commentary channels do in a week, you're doing every day. And of course, the unhealthy part of me was like, yeah, validate me for doing more work than I should be doing. I'm so glad you realize that this is not healthy. I'm so glad that you're acknowledging that. But then, of course, it got to the point where the burnout was so intense, and I had made 20 videos in 30 days, and I was like, this is not maintainable. I would have to get somebody to help me. Because a lot of people upload daily, and it's really good content, but they have teams. They have multiple editors, etc. So I had to ask myself, do I want to hire a team, or do I want to slow it down? Do I want to not maybe talk about everything that ever happens ever? So I made the decision, you know what? We're going to put the daily ones on hold. It was really fun while it lasted. Like, it legitimately was a blast creating so much content and getting so much engagement. But now I want to focus on like bigger projects. I would feel more fulfilled. But then it left me with 2 channels. Now I had 2 channels that both had a couple 100,000 subscribers, and I was like, what have I done? Like, what am I going to do now? So I started putting the longer videos on that channel, and then of course the numbers kind of behind the scenes switched, so it wound up working out. But yeah, for a period there, I was like, I have 300,000 subscribers twice. What have I accomplished?
Like, did I need to separate these channels? Do you think people were there any people that were annoyed that you made a second channel? Because they're like, oh, you're essentially posting the same thing. I think
people acted annoyed, but they were clearly watching both channels. So I'm like, it's not that hard to click into 2 different, videos. I know you're
like, okay, the real strategy is I want 2 creator plaques. So just subscribe to both channels. That's actually a good hack. If I could do that, maybe I can get another 100K.
You probably could. That's the thing that's surprising. Once you build that fan base up, if they like really connect with your content, which I know yours does, they will legitimately follow you because they want to see what you're doing. So yeah, if you start another channel, put out some good videos on there, you would probably get to 100,000 really quickly.
Oh my god, the scam! Right? Because I have the old plaque that I got like right before they changed it to the cleaner ones. So mine's ugly as shit. And to be honest, I'm proud of it. It took me 10 years to earn, but it's ugly, and so I'm sad about it.
I feel that.
And unless I can be lucky enough to hit 1 million someday, I'm just gonna be sitting with one lonely plaque. The sad life of a YouTuber. That is awesome. I wanted to ask how you go about choosing your topics, both on your, I don't know what to call them anymore. I guess first and second channel.
Yeah, I just call them the bigger and the smaller channel.
The big guy, the little guy. Yeah, because I think in commentary, there's definitely, I think, a struggle between, do I just cover the most popular topics, the most dramatic topics, because those tend to get the most attention, most views, most engagement, if you can do them within a time where people are still interested. I think there's that struggle. Or like, do I talk about more obscure topics that maybe are more interesting to me? Because I try to stay away from drama generally, but then I feel like I'm like missing out on, all those views, baby, to be honest.
Right.
Or I'm like, oh, I could maybe like talk about this somehow or add a twist, but I feel like I'm conflicted about that. And I don't know if like during that second channel era or now, if you've like changed your mind about what topics you prioritize.
In the beginning of the daily channel, that backfired experiment, I was legitimately talking about anything that was interesting to me. And it was actually kind of like all inspiring that people kept watching them, because I was almost trying to like, okay, I care about this, but I know nobody else cares about Kim Kardashian's playroom. Like, no one has made a video about this, because who cares?
Because why would you?
Right, but I did, because I was like, this is an abomination and everyone needs to see this. So I made that video. I called my mom, and because I had censored the pictures of Kim K's playroom, and I was like, I'm going to make a video about how I feel about this. And then I did. I put it up very quickly. It was like, that one was almost pure reaction. I was just recording myself having a meltdown over someone else's kid's playroom. And now that video has 1 million views, and it's legitimately one of my most popular videos. Like, everyone in the comment section agrees. So that's when I realized, you know what? In some way, yes, people care about trending topics. Yes, they care about the drama. And yes, I absolutely do have a mix of those so I can keep my engagement high. But I realized people are interested in hearing people talk about things that they're interested about. So as long as I'm actually interested and I have something to say, people will watch my videos. Like, no matter how crazy you're out there. So I have a video about dog cloning. I have a video about like this one really weirdly specific Twitter interaction about the composer for the Batman movie. I was just like, I have things to say about all this stuff. I'm sure enough people will watch it that it'll all add up. But nowadays, yes, I have changed it a bit. On my 10-minute channel, I just stick with topics that I think fit. Like, things I would kind of be expected to talk about, things I can give my take on. Like, I have an upcoming video about these influencer parties that are going around. Dear God, save us all. But, so yeah, that's something I'll do on my 10-minute channel. But on the channel where I post these longer videos, it's more so things that I have a lot to say. I have a lot to unpack. So like this whole recent 3-part series on, the beauty community, it was kind of dead. Like when I started the research, it was at its peak, and I knew it was going to take me weeks to finish that first video. So I took a risk. I was like, by the time I finish this series, this will have been over for at least a month. But I know people are going to keep watching, because who doesn't love like a good story? Who doesn't love well-presented info? So now I stick with things where I see a lot. That's why my upcoming series is about the Paul brothers, because howdy hey, I see a lot in that situation with the whole FBI thing. So yeah, on the one channel it's a lot, on the other channel it's just interesting,
That is wild. Yeah, I think it's great to be able to be so clearly passionate about something and just go off about it, like every little thing, and not feel like you have to cut out that like less important or less relevant information. And it definitely does take that level of dedication to do that with a topic, because I'm sure you've been like weeks into researching or scripting and being like, do I really like this video? Because I'm putting in a lot of fucking work here and I've got to get through it. I definitely have those moments where like, I feel like that's why it's hard for me to pick topics sometimes. It's like, I can be interested in it, but can I be interested enough to make a long ass video or like a decent video to encompass it all and last through the whole process? Because sometimes I'm halfway through and I'm like, is this even important? Like, is what I'm saying making sense? Am I interested in it? And, if a video makes it to YouTube, then I guess I did enough. But I think that's
an integral part of the process, though, because back when I was just creating content and I was like super into each video every single time, I was like, oh yeah, this is a banger, this is a banger, this is a banger. It was really easy content to make. You know what I mean? But when I started having second thoughts, that's when my videos started getting really good. When I started like, hey, this is a really big project. This seems weirdly specific. I haven't seen anyone express interest in it. Is this worth doing? And then I post the video and I'm like, oh, that was worth it. So now it's almost like full transparency, I had a similar moment to what you described during my last video. The one that was like 1 hour and 13 minutes. I was halfway through it. I had written everything. I chose the songs. It was in 15 sections. And then I just had a breakdown. And I was like to my agent, I was like, I'm not going to post this. I don't, like, sorry, tell the sponsors we don't care anymore. Obviously, I was being really dramatic, but I was kind of like, this is not it. I know I'm just going to tell everyone, hey, sorry, JK, I'll talk about, I don't know, Jake Paul. I'm going to pull out this series because nobody cares. And then I slept on it. I woke up and I was like, I still care about this. You know what I mean? I thought it was interesting enough to start on. So it's certainly going to show through by the end of it. I have to be confident in my ability to convey what I first saw when I started this video. And that's something I think you do well on your channel too, because it's like a lot of the topics that you talk about are not things I've ever thought about. Like, I'll never forget the video you released about the Not Like Other Girls phenomenon. That one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, to me, that was just a meme. Or like in my opinion, your best video is the Karen one. Because there's like the added level of you might actually be something people consider a Karen visually, but then like you're so far removed from it once you start the content. That to me was art. But I was like, to me, it's like, I'm not necessarily interested in this, but I know Tiffany makes good videos. I'm sure she's going to unpack things I never thought about. And then, yeah, I came away from that video with a completely different perspective on what is not just a meme, but is rather a role that we've assigned to certain people in society. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. So videos like yours, videos like ContraPoints, just videos where I can tell people saw something that other people might have missed, and that's their whole angle. That really shows me it's like, okay, fine. Even if it starts seeming a bit weird, I'm sure people are going to get it by the end.
Thank you. I'm like blushing. Yeah, it's who the fuck is calling me? Oh, my boyfriend. Oops. Stop.
Rip.
I'm like right in the middle of me soaking in all of those compliments. You
can't have it all.
Yeah, it's so crazy with topics like the Karen one. I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, oh, it's just a meme. Like, what is there to say? But then when I started researching it and like looking at the ways that it was being used and noticing all these differences, I was like, wait, we've got something interesting here. Right. And cherry on top, it's relevant. A lot of people are being called Karens right now. A lot of Karen videos are going viral. So I was like, okay, we'll try it out. But as always with a topic like that, like I find that once I dig deeper in my videos, I like dig up these like social issues like the racism involved with Karens. And I'm like, okay, I need to be sure that I cover this well because again, as a white woman on YouTube, like I can't just be like, oh yeah, like, racism.
Just gloss over that.
I'm like, racism's bad. Thanks. I'm like, I need to do this justice, and I also don't want to whitewash it or make it seem like I'm the one with the original thought about this because I'm not. So yeah, that's where a lot of my other like research comes in, and that's why now I want to have so many more people like on my channel collaborating with me because there are so many topics that I can't cover firsthand, and I would rather let someone else explain it than just be like, oh, I'll just summarize it.
Right. No, I love that. I love that.
Okay. My last question about this was kind of what are your thoughts on like the entire drama commentary spectrum, especially like, I don't know, being a commentary channel that covers drama. I think there have been a lot of like misconceptions and assumptions about drama channels or commentary channels and and it almost ties into the film student thing where like you can't like bad movies or like you only like highbrow cultural masterpieces, and it's like actually we the people sometimes like to talk about this shit that can seem very like basic and unimportant on the surface, but there's a lot beneath it. So like why do you think it's worth putting in so much time and research to discuss the topics that you've been covering?
Yeah, actually, that was something I ran into hard when I switched my content, because in my opinion, I switched my content to commentary, right? And that's kind of like what I thought was going to go over. And I was getting so many people saying, oh, so you're a drama channel now. Oh. And I was like, now hold on a darn minute. Where are the drama videos?
Channel who? Exactly.
Right, like it would be top, because to me comments don't bother me unless they get into the top comments, because then I'm like, oh, oops, several thousand people agree with this.
People agree. So yeah.
Right. And I was getting like top comments that were basically like, oh wow, he became a drama channel. I was like, did I do it wrong? Did I fumble the bag? Is this what people think of when they see D'Angelo Wallace? But I started really thinking about it, And I know you even talked about this in one of your videos. You had like a range of channels and they fell in like different parts of like a spectrum basically. And I remember watching that and realizing, oh, it doesn't matter. Like we're all putting work into our videos and we all overlap. Some of the things I'm talking about are very tea, if you will, you know what I mean? Like we're talking about text messages and someone said something to someone else. Oh my gosh. But then other times I'm legitimately talking about social issues, like how, prejudices might play a role into how the world reacts to certain news. So I'm like, if I'm doing all of this, then no matter what anybody calls it, it doesn't necessarily matter. You know what I mean? Right. So I feel like even if I put a ton of work into a video and I'm just like super on it and I feel like I've covered all the bases, and because I try to hit the social issues too, I try to like hit this, hit that, and then I put it out in someone calls a drama video, I'm just kind of like, that's fine, because at this point like, it is what it is, right? It's still, the social issues are still in there even if it comes across as drama. So yeah, for a while I certainly struggled with that, because it's like I didn't want to be a drama channel, but then I really thought about it and I'm like, why not? All the negative value has been assigned to drama channels by people consuming the content. Like y'all are so mad, but you're still in the comment section. So I was like, you know what, there's nothing wrong with drama channels. Now there are some terrible drama channels. Let's get that out of the way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I never want to hear like bad mouthing about Angelica Oles, and I honestly consider her more commentary anyway, even though she talks about drama, it's like drama commentary, or people like that, because I'm like, no, these people are still putting work into their content. They're still talking about things that they want to. So yeah, the label doesn't bother me anymore, but it was an adjustment.
I think the interesting thing about drama channels, or like the difference between drama and commentary, or that like very blurred line or the overlap, it depends on the day. I think it's like like when you look at Angelica, she's built this like, because she posts so often and because she talks about most major things, it's not like she's just like invested in one particular piece of tea or drama. I feel like when you build the whole portfolio, dare I say, of videos, it's like, it's really, again, yeah, it is part of the commentary, because you're talking about what's important or what's trending in certain communities and why it's important or why things may be problematic, or, like I feel like there is a lot that goes into it. But on the surface, you see it and you're like, oh, you're just covering drama and you're just putting YouTubers' names in the thumbnail. But it's like, okay, hey, we're in this massive ecosystem of YouTube. And again, there are people who are interested in all of these things, and there are people who want to deliver that content in some way that's like entertaining, and they add something to this discussion. So yeah, that's very interesting. All right, so back to the section. Big YouTuber D'Angelo Wallace. Okay, so first I want to talk about, I guess, the transition from the second channel. Or no, now it is the second channel is main channel. Get my shit together. I should not have drank coffee, because speaking of podcasts, side note, I'm trying to figure out how to make my podcast better when and if I return to it, because I'm terrible at editing audio. I'm like, okay, I'm a YouTuber, but I'm bad with cameras, audio, and everything.
The minor
basically,
details.
I can write maybe, but that's it. Because I feel like my mic is very like mouthy, and that's gross to people. But I don't know how to edit audio. And then I read something that was like, oh, make sure you drink a lot of water before. Don't drink coffee because it makes your throat like mucousy. Sorry. And I just drank coffee and I can feel it. So that's really fun. Surprise. I'm like, excuse my mouth, I'm just going to never speak again. If you could just carry the rest of the interview on your own. Thanks.
Right? No, I feel that sometimes I become hyper aware, I think, of the noise that I'm making. And then I'm like, this is abnormal. People are going to click into this video and like, I'm unsubscribing. There's no way that people are listening to this for 10 minutes. But then I'm like, wait, I'm literally trying to hear myself make mouth noises. Nobody does that.
Right. I know. I'm like, and also anyone commenting about mouth noises, try getting a microphone and talking into it without any mouth noises.
Right.
Though I do need another pop filter. Yes. I broke mine, I think, a long time ago. I'm like, oops. Again, disregarding my entire education of film production. Okay. So your second channel was doing very well. Very well. Like, I remember seeing it and just being like, oh, cool. He casually starts this, like, easier channel. And then it's, like, blowing up even more. And I was like, all right, he can do anything he wants. And then the Shallon Lester situation started.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't even remember the exact scenario, except that you were talking about it because everyone was talking about how terrible she is. And then there was beef with you guys on Twitter and all of the lies. Do you think that that specific video or those two videos were like a catalyst for like more growth?
It was kind of the opposite. Actually, nobody was talking about Shallon Lester. I had independently stumbled onto her content, and I was
I did it first. Okay.
Right. No, I was like, what is this? This is insane. Because, I mean, you watch the videos. I think probably most people watching
I've
this
seen
are
them.
aware. So, yeah, I put that video out, and it was my first time ever making a 40-minute video. And before that, even though I did have a really decent amount, and even though I had so many subscribers, I had never ever gotten 1 million views on a video. And I would even tell my friends, I was like, I just got 100,000 subscribers in a month, but I still did not get 1 million views on a video. Clearly, I'm incapable of doing this. And so, no, yeah, I put that video up, and then that's kind of when everyone started looking into it. So that turned into like basically a wave of commentary. But yes, throughout that, then it wound up getting very personal because there was like some rumors that I had to go back and debunk. So that was a second 40-minute video. Again, not with the intention of being 40 minutes, just I had to address all of this. But at that point, my analytics were like, let's think about this. You were uploading shorter videos and people were watching those for that amount of time. But now you're uploading twice as long videos and people are watching them for twice as long. So don't ever not do that. Ever just only upload 40-minute videos. And I was like, so if I upload 40-minute videos, I can break away from having to upload daily. Because I was really in a hole. I was in a hole that I dug myself of having to upload daily. So once I realized, yeah, those two videos absolutely did change the course of my content. Because I was like, wow, so I can just put a lot into one video at a time instead of making a lot of videos at a time. And from there forward, yeah, if it's 40 minutes, it's 40 minutes. If it's 30, it's 30. You know, if it's an hour and 13 minutes, which somehow I hit twice. That's really weird.
Very specific. Okay. Every video is an hour and 13 minutes from now on.
That's the new 10 minutes, don't you know? But yeah, no, it was absolutely the two Shallon Lester videos accidentally changed me to long form content, which is something that I had just been interested because I consumed it. You know, I watched ContraPoints, Pyrocynical has a lot of really long videos like that, etc. But I was like, how will I ever get my audience to watch a 40-minute video? Not knowing that people were like starved for that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's something that surprised me too, was like when I discovered ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube, like all the video essayists making these like beautiful long videos, I was like, oh my god, holy shit. I was like, first of all, I wish I could make this content, but how can you go about that?
Right.
And then it's like, oh, if you pick a topic and you have enough to say, then like it's very easy for things to get very long, and you just hope that people are interested enough to watch it.
Yeah, straight up.
I'm interested in how, like, you've just done these, like, 180s so many times in your YouTube career already. Like, art to commentary, like, 10 minutes to, like, okay, 14 minutes every day. And then 40 minutes. And, like, literally overnight, it went from that to, like, that being, like, a rare thing, the Shallon video, the first one, to, okay, this is my new standard of, like,
yes.
Length, depth of research, these types of topics. And then suddenly it was like, D'Angelo's going to come to expose anyone who's like, you know, a fraud or like anybody with terrible behavior. And I was just so fascinated. And that makes sense that the analytics were like encouraging you to continue. But also I think like the feedback from your audience must have been like, oh shit, more of this, please.
Well, it's because I changed my perspective on content. Before, it was very much, yes, I was a YouTuber, so this is my job, and basically, like, your job is to watch, right? And so I create the content thinking, like, oh, yeah, this is a product I'm creating, and people watch it. There's a barrier. Like, this is something that's expected of me. But behind the scenes, kind of like the way we're talking right now, this is just me, like, 40-minute conversations left and right. Like, if you start talking to me, I'm not sure why you would do that if you had other things planned. So with my friends, all the time, we would have like these 3-hour conversations about one thing. Like I've had all kinds of conversations about this. And I've even had conversations about like all my 40-minute videos plus, they started off as real conversations that I've had with people. And even getting my perspective changed by talking to other people. Because that's something I get a lot is like, oh, wow, you see things from all sides of perspective. And it's like, yeah, but that's only possible if you talk to other people. You know, you can't. So when I separated it it's no longer just me making content for the audience. It's more so about everyone's opinion on this. Of course, I'm going to share mine, but I want to look at everything. And it was a learning experience for me because I had to learn there's actually so much value in talking about things from a perspective that I might not even see it. I can still be true to myself while acknowledging these alternative ways of interpreting things. And so, yeah, because of my friends and the audience feedback and all that, my videos kind of transformed from like, yeah, this is just me for 20 minutes talking about something that I care about, to I want to look at this whole situation. This is my opinion on it, but I'm going to give you all the facts and you can come to whatever conclusion you want. It doesn't even have to be the same. It's just interesting that this happened and that we can talk about it. And yeah, that accidental transformation, if you will, just clearly the best thing that's happened to my channel.
The happiest accident ever. I know. I think a lot of people want that type of video, and that's why especially your deep dives in these last like 6 videos have been so interesting, because people are like, okay, cool. Like, even though I've probably watched the drama channels cover this, like I can go and watch and trust that D'Angelo is going to cover this in like a fair way and that he's going to cover every single point. And I found that I do the same thing in my videos too. Like I said, I used to like make a lot of rant videos, and I used to think like my opinion is cool and worthy of sharing, which sure, maybe, but I find so much more like pleasure, I find it so much more enjoyable to like start with my opinion, but then I usually like ask on my Instagram story, like, oh, I'm going to cover this topic. What should I look into? Or like, whatever. And people lead me in so many different directions that I literally would have had zero knowledge of. Yeah. And that adds so much to my videos. So I have like, you know, all the credit is due to my audience for letting me know what to look into, or like, yeah, changing my perspective from being like, you know, a more closed-minded opinion to looking at the whole situation overall. But yeah, it's a lot.
Something huge I learned with this last video, the Tati video, is like ageism basically, and sexism, because they go hand in hand. And
just heard of it.
Right?
Sexism?
No, but just as like a guy,
never
really thinking about this stuff, because it doesn't affect me. Like, I'm 22 and male, so ageism legitimately does not affect me. Sexism legitimately does not affect me. So it's really easy for me to criticize somebody, not even thinking that I'm feeding into this, because it's not something I think about. But then I read my comment section and people are like, oh, hey, you're super playing into this, whether you realize it or not. So because that's something that I went through in the past, I try to be aware of it. So for this Tati video, I was like, you know what? I'm positive that I can still basically drag her, but I can also speak to my own struggles with being more direct and more conscious, and I need to make sure that I'm criticizing actions and not people, right? Because it's no one's fault that they're a certain age. It's no one's fault that, you know, you're a male or female. I noticed, it's weird how this seems to get held against her, but then it doesn't get held against these other people in the situation. So can I make a video about calling this out, but can I also call out the double standard? Can I use my own bad arguments in the past as an example of like, hey, don't criticize people like this. You need to pay attention to like, why are you so mad about this? Is it because of what she did? Or is it because of her age? Like, you know what I mean? Would you feel as strongly about this if this was a guy? Or do you attribute this to her being a woman? So that super changed my whole scripting process from just a very, you know, no punches pulled. And I still didn't pull any. But to more, I get to be more conscious now. I get to feel better. Because the thing is, too, is like you feel better about it. I feel better now knowing that I'm not offending, you know, people. I feel better knowing that my argument is no longer stupid. And just about the fact that she's a certain age. So yeah, it's absolutely been a learning process as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I loved that part of the video. I'm glad you included it. In that whole situation with Tati and James Charles, I had first made a video. I don't know if you saw it because I took it down, like, I think a week after Dramageddon, because I realized, I tried to make a hot take video like right after without the facts. And I did like unconsciously feed into that, like, gay men are predators, or like young gay men are trying to, you know, seduce straight men. And yeah, it's like if you're unaware of that narrative, or at least like not consciously aware of it, it's so easy to just repeat that information and not realize that you're perpetuating it. And yeah, that was probably one of the main things that made me want to take that video down, because I was like, dude, like my points are not even like, they're not good, they're not fleshed out, and I'm perpetuating this very harmful stereotype that I do not want to. Therefore, bad take the video down. And I kind of wish that more YouTubers would do that. I think in commentary people are a lot more aware, but like generally on the internet people usually don't take stuff down because I think they want to be like, oh, I've grown, like it's fine. Or like you'll just add like an edit or something, but it's like sometimes things are so wrong that like you should probably just take it down and like
a little Twitter notes apology.
Right, exactly. I think like there's a whole question of like growth versus like, oh, if you take things down, people can't see like where you used to be. But it's like you can also take the strategy of directly calling yourself out or be like, hey, I thought this same thing too, and it's wrong because this, and now I know it. So cool.
Right. Yeah, so I respect both. What kills me is when people just put out a Twitter apology and then they leave it up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you actually learned nothing. Like that's the least possible effort. You may as well have just ignored it. But yeah, no, taking harmful content down, obviously, it's a really good course of action. Directly calling it out, kind of Jenna Marbles style. She did that in her apology video before she removed that one, where she was able to sit down and show you the content and explain this is why this was not right. And I'm like, wow, that's so good. Wow, I don't think most people are even capable of doing that. So yeah, pick one of those, but don't do the Twitter apology. Please, no. Oh
God, such a cliche. But I mean, I feel like in function, you're like, well, it makes sense. I got my notes app right here.
Right?
Just type it out, put it up, and everyone will be fine, right?
Oh dear.
Oh man. Okay, so you are now at nearly 1.5 million subscribers. Did you notice? Have you checked? I don't know if you noticed. That's just like, I can't. When you hit 1 million, how many subscribers was it that you grew in a month? Like 600,000?
Like almost 700,000, yeah.
That's insane. I cannot believe that. Before that whole month, how were you feeling about like the growth of your channel? Like the rate of growth?
Right. To me, it was really rapid. Like, even though it was nothing compared to obviously like 680,000 in a month, I was growing pretty rapidly. I want to say I got like 100,000 something like that, something along those lines. And to me, that's insane. I was like, wow, I'm going to be at 100,000 before the end of, or I'm going to be at 1 million before the end of the year. And I was grateful. I was legitimately grateful that people were watching my content, not knowing what was coming down the road. You know what I mean?
Who would ever anticipate that? Because that truly does not happen often. Like, okay, maybe, I don't know, PewDiePie at some point. Like,
right.
Oh, after you've passed millions, like you might get another 500,000 in a month. But
I looked, I checked, I looked around. I pulled out my Social Blade because you can see like the monthly totals.
We love Social Blade.
Right. A little too much. And then I had to know. So I started pulling up much bigger channels than mine that I watch. And I was like, I do not think very many people have gained 680,000 in a month. Even channels with like 5 million subscribers. It was crazy.
Yeah. I would love to know just like how that felt. That's something I'm very interested in as a YouTuber, because like my growth has been mostly very gradual over like many years. Though the growth rate's a lot faster in the last like 2 years. But I had maybe a month where I gained like 100,000, and like that felt unreal. And I was like, wow, what if this continues or whatever? But how do you feel during that?
Well, I have to say, I was actually sending your channel to my friends. Because I want to say it was... You went from, was it 3 to 4? That was the one where you just kind of skipped? Something
like that, yeah. I feel like I was at like 250 for a while. And then all of a sudden I was at like 5 within like 2 months.
Yeah, when that happened, I kept sending your channel to people, and I was like, this is what I'm talking about. If you upload consistent content and you have a backlog and there's an expectation, at some point, your channel is going to do what Tiffany's channel is doing right now. I was like, look at how many subscribers she's getting. Because to me, that was like superhero stuff. I was like, I cannot believe she got 1 million views on a video. I think I DM'd you, right? I was like, congratulations on 1 million views in such a short amount of time. Because to me, that was unreal. But I believed in that potential. I know everyone's channel can do that if you play your cards right. So beforehand, I was able to witness it via channels like yours. But I still wasn't prepared for the scale, I guess. Yeah. Because I was like, oh yeah, someday I'm going to get 200,000. But then it was like, I just flew past 1 million to like 1 point, wherever it is right now. It was unreal because it's like counterintuitive. It's like, oh yeah, the last time I posted a video, I had 600,000 subscribers, and now I have 1.2 million. So it's like, hold on a darn minute. There's my audience has doubled. Like, you can't really comprehend the fact that I have twice as many subscribers now as I did when I posted my last video. It's literally, it just doesn't compute. So it legitimately, unreal is the best word I can use to describe it.
I feel like my thing with that, like when my channel had that spurt, was like, that was what I had been hoping for like years. I was like, oh my God, it must be so exciting for that moment to happen. And then you hope that it continues. But like, I also was very surprised by how strange it feels, because for me, I had a lot of viewers that have literally watched me for like a decade. And then I had like people in the last like year. And then all of a sudden in like a month, you have all these brand new people. And it's great. But then it's also like, these people don't know you like those like old, OG fans do. And so then you have this like interesting mix of like, you may have before been able to like guess how your audience would react. But then now you have these new people added to the mix who like what you've done, but they're also like new to you. So it just changes the whole dynamic of your audience.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just remember being like really surprised by that. Like obviously you're grateful for it, but then you're like, oh shit, like things change. And something else that fascinated me was like not being viewed as like a small channel anymore. Because for so long I was a small channel, and then I hit 100,000 and I was like, wow, I made it. And then I was like, I'm still a small channel, And then all of a sudden, like if people look at your channel, oh, you have 400, 500, 600,000 subscribers. This is not a small channel. Then people are looking at you with a completely different lens, even though literally the change could have happened in the last month. So in your mind, you're still at that like other point, or like I'm still just a girl in an apartment making videos by myself. When like that's not how people see you.
Yeah, straight up. That's something that I went through, because I think like the insane super fast growth, it slowed down around 1.3 million. So I was kind of left in the dust, like, okay, I have 1.3 million subscribers. So I kept watching YouTubers that I literally consider big YouTubers, because they are. And I kept thinking, I have more subscribers than that. It's like, I would watch another channel that had like 1.1 million subscribers. And I was like, I have more subscribers than that. So I started having to like recontextualize. I'm like, this is a big channel. It's not a small channel. It's not medium sized. Nobody's going to see 1.3 and think, oh, this is a small channel anymore. So in a way, I almost feel like I lost a bit of a safety net, because there's certainly things that people will have mercy for if you're a smaller channel. Oh, he does his best, whatever. But it's really weird, because it's still just me. I also am still just a dude in this small space making the videos. So I definitely experience uncertainty, because it's like, well, if something goes wrong, I have 1.x million subscribers. How am I going to upload something with an editing mistake? That's terrible. But then you think about it, and it's like, but nothing has changed. I'm still just me. I make mistakes. So yeah, it's absolutely been a weird process of having to like reconceptualize myself as a bigger YouTuber.
Like instantly. You have no time to prepare for that. Yeah.
It's
Do you think
insane.
that changes the standard that you expect from yourself, or that you think that your audience expects from you now?
I don't necessarily think it changes the standard my audience expects, because thankfully they already kind of saw I was making good content beforehand. But for me, certainly, like I have videos with typos, in them, and I see them after the fact, and I'm just like, oh gosh, I tried so hard and I still misspelled exponential. But now I can't let that happen. So even if I have to create the whole video and then go to sleep, wake up and watch it again with a fresh set of eyes, even if I have to send it to somebody and be like, hey, I know this is 45 minutes, but I still need you to watch this and let me know if there's any mistake, I'm going to do that, just because it's like, I can't imagine how much worse, because I already feel terrible about small mistakes. I can't imagine how I'm going to feel if I click into one of my videos and there's a typo and like several million people watched it. Oh my gosh. It's going to weigh on me forever.
When referring to a mistake that you could make, it's literally a typo. You're like, I mean, I don't know what I would do if I spelled exponential wrong again.
Right.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, no, I don't make too many mistakes with my research, but that's just because I use the same method I learned in school. It's kind of hard to get things wrong, because I do a process of just multiple sources. I corroborate things. And then it really helps to read what people are saying about it. So yeah, reading 5 articles is great. But then if I read a tweet and someone uses a different date, then I might realize, wait, did I write down the wrong date when I read 5 articles about this? So yeah, no, my research, I have full faith in that. My ability to spell basic words correctly, absolutely not.
Wow. Well, I hope that you can get a spell checker or a
Right?
dedicated assistant for this, because now that you're a YouTuber with almost 1.5 million subscribers, you have the responsibility to never make a typo again. So
Yeah,
no
it's
pressure.
so scary. Yeah, no,
Do you generally feel like excited about this, or are there parts of you that feel like nervous?
It's both. On the one hand, publishing a video now is unreal.
I bet.
Right, like pressing publish to a channel that has that reach is insane. Going to get a drink of water and then coming back and it's like over 10,000 views. That's like, it's hard not to be addicted to that. It's like, oh, I want to do this every single day. I'm going to upload, an hour-long video. No, so that has reached a certain level, but also the anxiety of it all has certainly scaled appropriately because it's like, oh gosh, I'm going to hit publish, go to sleep, wake up, and then several 100,000 people will have consumed whatever I published, whether it was good or bad. That's really hard not to feel like scared of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I know, I can relate to that too. I'm
it's
like,
a gamble.
it used to just be like, oh cool, like I'll post it and then I'll watch as the comments like slowly roll in. Depending on the video, it doesn't get very many views like right away. But like you
Right.
can usually tell when a video is doing well within the first hour.
Yes.
And like, so I always sit and I'm like reading the comments and making sure like, okay, if there's something that I said wrong, like somebody will mention it soon, and I just sit and like wait. And I get so nervous about like, yeah, what's the mistake of the video gonna be, or like,
Right. What did I get wrong this time?
what did I get wrong? Because there's always gonna be something, or yeah, another perspective that I have no idea about, and then I'm like, oh shit, how did I fail to notice that?
Right.
And I feel like I go too deep into the like, how do I anticipate any responses and how do I prevent them from happening? But it's like,
Yeah.
you can't do that. Do you read like a lot of your comments, or like how do you go about that?
It depends. I like to read a few of the first few comments that roll in, for sure, just to see, it's so nice to see people be like, oh, I've been waiting for this for X amount of time, because that's definitely the validation I need, because I work on it for so long, so it's nice to know. There's always those people who are, like, waiting for it, and they dropped what they were doing to see what I spent time doing. So, yeah, I love reading those first few comments, but I'm legitimately talking for, like, 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I close it out. I don't need to read.
Wow.
Yeah, after 5 minutes, I give it a few hours, and then I read the top comments. I never read my, recent comments, because that's a breeding ground for hurting my feelings. Like, yeah, sure, if I'm not in the right frame of mind and I want to feel terrible and I'm seeking out, like, negative content,
Oh, no.
yeah, I'll sort that by recent and I'll see what any old Joe had to say. But yeah, no, after the first 5 minutes, I stick to reading my top comments, because, YouTube cycles them out. So every few hours I can find new top comments to read, and maybe I'll read, like, a really decent amount. And it's good to get a glimpse of, oh, wow, I didn't know people would connect with that one part. Because to me, that was just something I threw in there. But clearly people are stuck on this. Or,
Right.
oh, wow, I didn't know that there were alternative ways of interpreting this. Because to me, that was cut and dry. But now I understand, oh, wow, there's different ways of looking at it. So, yeah, I stick to the top comments. I stick to the early comments. Other than that, no.
That's a really good strategy, because that's something I've been struggling with. Again, like, luckily my channel hasn't grown too fast, because I've almost gotten like scared of that, because I don't know how I would respond, like, too many comments overnight. But yeah, like I used to try to read like every comment a few years ago, and I was like, there's just too many comments. But then I got to the point where I was like, oh god, one very slightly critical comment can straight up ruin me. And then I sit with this like pit in my stomach, like, oh, I fucked up, what should I do? And then I'm like, why am I subjecting myself to this? So now I do kind of the same thing. Like, I'll read the comments in the beginning, but then like I used to literally refresh them for like hours after I posted a video, and it can be like such a high, but then those like, the comments that don't love your video fucking punch you in the face, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like so manipulative to my own emotions. And you're right, like you can choose like, oh, I want to fuck myself up right now. I'm just gonna go read some comments.
Sort by recent.
So bad. Okay, I'm gonna test that out, because that's a good idea for my own mental health and my own well-being, and not ruining my mood every day. I used to read comments first thing in the morning. Can you imagine what's worse than that?
No way.
It's so bad. Oh, thank you. I'm like, wow, you're giving me so many tips. Thanks for being such a big YouTuber who's a major professional.
It's just my lifestyle.
Oh my God. Are you having a lot of people like follow you to other social media? Like, how's that been? Like Twitter blowing up or like DMs? Do you even like read DMs?
I don't respond. I will certainly like, sometimes I'll just make sure like brands aren't dumb enough to somehow not email me, but because I've literally had brands not email me but DM me, and I'm like, can you please just email my manager? Why are you in my DMs? But so yeah, I'll skim the top DMs, but I definitely don't like respond to any of them because people like, and people know that when they send them, so maybe they'll just send me something that they want me to read but not necessarily respond to. I kind of appreciate that. As far as like other platforms growing in size, I am actually shocked. I didn't expect it to go this way. So my Instagram, comparatively speaking, it's definitely grown, but like what you would expect. Like I have 80,000-ish followers, and that's up from 60-something thousand. Or I guess before I started blowing up, it was like 50. So to me, that's like intuitive. That's something I would expect to see. My Twitter, on the other hand, just a couple months ago, I was thanking people for 50,000, and now it's 150,000 followers on Twitter. Like, that is a sizable audience, and my tweets keep winding up in the double digits. So that's been the biggest surprise to me. It's like, hold up, I tweet something and it has like 15,000 likes because 150,000 people follow me on Twitter. That to me has been the biggest, like, how did this happen? Because I never do hard Twitter promo. I did a hard Instagram promo on a recent video just because I wanted to kind of match it up. Now I feel bad. But yeah, I've never been like, hey, I need you guys to follow me on Twitter because I tweet X amount of value that you will gain. People just gravitate there. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. Again, yeah, I feel like I don't want to post very much on other platforms, but then sometimes I'm like, oh no, I don't have this many amount of Twitter followers. But then I'm like, do I want that? Do I like, what would I do with that if I don't want to tweet at all anyway? I used to kind of laugh at people who would like only retweet stuff on Twitter. Like people would be like it would be like the common white girl accounts, and I'd be like, oh, like you can't think of your own tweets. This was years ago when I had probably no followers. But now I'm like, oh, all I do is retweet shit because like I just feel like everyone can say things better than me.
Right.
I'm like, I'll leave it to them. I don't need to say my own things. And again, I'm like, I don't want to do hot takes because again, my videos take weeks to plan, and even then I'm second guessing them, and then it's like my tweets would take weeks. I'd be thinking about it and be like, how may people interpret this? Do I need to weigh in on this conversation? No.
Yeah.
But then, yeah. And then on Instagram, it's like, I don't know, I post a video or a picture every like 3 weeks, maybe.
Same.
Stories are good. Stories are okay. But then, I don't know. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, I don't want to focus more on social media. So if I'm going to have time and work, it has to be YouTube. So I'll focus on that. And then if I post once, sure. But then we all love the validation of having a good ratio of followers on each platform.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, once I started getting, because it's like, it's funny because you think you don't care, like you lie to yourself, you're like,
exactly,
I don't care how many followers I have. But now that I'm in like the triple digits on Twitter, I can't stop thinking about how I have less than 100,000 on Instagram. So I'm just like, here I was thinking I didn't care, and now every single day I wake up and think, oops, still don't have, I'm still under 99,000. It's like, what does it matter if I'm under 99,000 if I'm at 80,000? It's like so ridiculous.
And by the way, with your rate of growth, you'll probably hit 100,000 on Instagram in like 2 days, and then 2 million on YouTube next
It'll
week.
Just
so
blow up.
It's gonna be fine. You just need to feed people more content. I love seeing everyone like like all the compliments. I love like reading the comments on your pictures. Like the last 2 you dropped, I think, for your birthday. Oh yes, it was the strawberry shirt, and everyone's just like, beautiful, gorgeous, prettiest man. I'm like,
King.
wow, okay, yes, take those compliments.
Right.
And then I have to, well, I do reply to your tweets a lot, but I'm like, I have to stop myself from replying to everyone like, wow, you deserve it, like, king.
No,
I am a D'Angelo Stan account now. That is my purpose on Twitter.
I actually slowed down like heavy with the tweets because I started realizing I'm actually tweeting too much. Like I'm driving too much engagement, because if I'm tweeting something and I'm getting hundreds of responses every single time, that can't be like good. It can't be good to tweet 10 different things and get 100 responses each time. I'm actually like forcefully, overflowing myself with responses. So now I just, because I know people are going to go off on like the things I post, I'm just like, let me save this for something I really want to say, something I think is really funny, and then I'll post that. I can deal with, a few comments there. But yeah, no, because before it was cool, I would get like 3 replies, so I was super cool tweeting 10 times a day, because like only like my Twitter fans, because like I can name them, like you see the same people tweeting, so I knew like if I tweet this, I'm gonna see these people respond because they really enjoy it, and I might even respond. But now I'm out here tweeting, and I have people whose accounts I've never seen before talking about things that I don't understand, and I'm just like, maybe I'll just save that. Maybe I'll just save it for like the important tweets.
That's wild. It's like this whole fandom about you is growing without your knowledge.
Right.
And then suddenly it just pops up and you're like, well, okay, I mean, I'll take it. Sure. Feed the engagement. Right. If you start doing sponsored tweets, we know you're getting that coin.
Yes. I'm actually working my way up to sponsored Instagram posts. I'm talking to my manager.
Let's see it.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got a lot of followers anyway. But I do respect your grind and how many times you mention, like, the views, the coin. I'm like, get your fucking money, dude. You mentioned you want to buy a house. I'm like, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Do all the brand deals, please. Don't you dare post an unsponsored video.
That's the thing, too. I noticed, because, like, I turn it into a joke, but it's also so true. Like, I love to maximize profits with my uploads because it's money. Wow, money's going to my account. But I notice, like, nobody gets mad. And it's like, I go in other people's sections and, like, they seem peeved, which to me, I think is so unfair to a creator to be mad at them for doing sponsored posts. But I guess I could understand if you don't understand, like, the landscape of ads. Every single time we upload, there is a chance that we are going to get $0.00. Or there's a chance that we are going to get, like, cents on the dollar that we should be getting.
Right.
So I, of course, as a creator, I totally get, like, I think everything, as many videos as possible should be sponsored because that's just smart. But then I see, unfortunately, the viewers are, like, I guess a bit peeved. They're like, oh, gosh, blah, 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 blah. Whereas, on the other hand, since before I ever got my first sponsor, I was basically saying, I'm trying to make as much money as possible. So now whenever I get sponsors, people will congratulate me for, like, oh, we're so glad this video is sponsored. And I'm just like, this is just, like, a different dynamic.
I know. I've never seen people I think it changes again, like when you're a small YouTuber or you're up and coming, like people are rooting for you. And then I've seen when people get bigger, then it's like, oh, so many sponsorships. It's like it could be the exact same amount, same type of sponsorships, but suddenly you're making too much money or trying to. And I mean, hey, when you're a YouTuber, you have to know that our time on this platform is finite. And we're not going to have the opportunity to earn this money forever. So it's like, oh shit, I'm going to make this money. I'm going to save up. I'm going to make some investments. And hopefully, when I'm an ex-YouTuber, it'll all be worth it financially.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think also with commentary, or at least like long videos, how can people really complain about a sponsorship that's like 60 to 90 seconds?
Right.
In a video that's 40 minutes or like an hour 13 long. Like, really. And also, fast forward. Skip it. Sure. Okay, so my last few questions, now that I've taken almost like 2 hours of your time.
Oh, it's literally no rush.
That's the thing also, like you said, I meant to ask about, you have like in real life friends, period. No, you have friends in real life who do like YouTube and talk about this, or do you kind of like rant at them?
Actually, no. When I talk about my friends, I'm not talking about people like in my vicinity. I just talk to a lot of people online. Like we're super close. Yeah, like my core friend group. Well, it's funny because like when we started off, we were all small YouTubers. So I guess there's still small YouTubers, but like we've basically been YouTubers. So like I can go in there and say, oh gosh, I'm dealing with 40% retention when I knew this was going to be a 53. And they are not going to be like, hey, can you speak English? They're going to be like, oh, well, it's probably because you said something really weird at 3:30. Did you notice you made it seem like the video was over? So it's really, like, I think useful to have that. Because then if I turn to the people in my real life and I'm like, hey, I don't even know how to start saying, like, what my problem is.
Do you know who Tati Westbrook is? They're like, what? They're like, I have to explain all of that situation to you. Never mind.
Right. No, when people encounter me in real life, like, my realtor basically, because he asked what I do, because he was trying to get, a gauge on certain things. And I was like, oh, I do YouTube. And I always make the mistake. I always make the mistake of saying I do YouTube when I always mean to say I'm a professional YouTuber. That way people can understand.
Exactly.
I'm consciously doing this as a job. But
and you earn money from it, yes.
Right, but I always accidentally say I do YouTube. So he actually checked my channel out, and he sends me back a text, and he's like, I do not know who any of those people are, but it seems like you're good at your job. And it's like, that's basically how people respond in real life. I don't know what you're doing, but good for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, lucky for you for having friends to talk about, like, YouTube stuff with. Because, yeah, like, well, first of all, I live with my boyfriend, and I don't see many other people, period. But he's, like, not into YouTube or not into it the way I am. So, like, sometimes I do rant at him when I'm, like, planning a video. I'm like, oh, this situation and this and that, can you believe it? He's like, okay. And I'm like, you don't get it. And yeah, sometimes people ask like, oh, do your like real life friends or family like watch your videos? And I'm like, I don't think any of my like friends like from high school or like my hometown do. They're not into YouTube. Like, so this is all foreign. And they don't care. And like, yeah, good for you. I'm glad the channel's doing well, but like that's it. And then yeah, like my family, like I don't know if my mom watches all of my videos or like just clicks in and gives me a view. But yeah, I'm like, nobody in my real life is into this except the like YouTube friends or viewers turned real life friends.
Yes.
And even then it's like when we meet up in person, it's like all we talk about is YouTube because I need to like rant and get it out of my system because it's a lot. Or like, do you get emails about like interviews or like, I'm doing a thesis, like can you talk with me about this?
Yeah, actually I've had people reach out. I never accept because I feel like I'm so not an expert. No, I just feel like, oh, you want me to ruin your project? Because it's like,
I get that.
I'm really good like on a one-on-one conversation, but in terms of like presenting, and it's like, it's ironic because I can present information that I'm trying to present really well, but people come to me and they ask for a breakdown. I'm like, what, like crying? I can do that kind of breakdown right in front of you.
Right. That's what I can give you. That's funny.
But yeah, no, I'm just, I'm honestly, yeah, people do, I guess, see me as like some sort of expert in terms of how to run it. But it's like, I've just been winging it since day one. I try to make changes to adjust for this ever-changing YouTube algorithm. That's all I could say in 40 different ways.
Are people asking you, like, how to YouTube? Or has that been, like, since your channel blew up? I imagine you get a lot of, like, inquiries since then.
Yeah. Well, what I do to try to kind of head this off is I've written a couple of guides now. My recent one was really in-depth, and I post them on Reddit. So when people come to me and they're like, they don't know, because nobody knows that. I never talk about what I do on Reddit.
I'm going to read these.
Oh,
Not
you really
right
should.
now, but I'm going to open it up.
Yeah, you should check them out. When people come to me, it's, I think my Reddit username is D'Angelo Wallace. So just go to the posts, sort by posts. I've written a guide on how I went from like X amount to 70K, and then I've written a guide on how I went from however many to 1 million, and I basically break it down in terms of, hey, you need to focus on your retention. So like, again, I can do it when I'm presenting it, but if you come to me, I'm not going to be able to give you anything. So that's why I compiled those. It's like an FAQ, if you will.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I get like very specific topics. Like people are like, oh, I'm writing a dissertation or a thesis on like cancel culture. And I did a few like Skypes with people on it. But like after the fourth one, which every time it's like a 2-hour conversation because I can't stop talking about it. And I enjoy it. But then I'm like, I cannot talk about cancel culture anymore. And like, I feel like that's always what people are like, make a video on it. I'm like, no.
I'm
like
drained.
it's been discussed, all right? I think we've got it. And there's too much to say, truly.
Literally.
But yeah, there's always like specific topics that like randomly like a lot of people will want to know about. And I try to say yes to those as much as I can, but also like sometimes I'm like, okay, stop scheduling so many fucking calls because you have other shit to do. But it is enjoyable, and it's like the few times that I get to like sit and like vent about YouTube stuff to people who get it.
The thing is, I fare better when it's like this, because like we have talks before this call, just via the DMs. And when I was on Jarvis Johnson's podcast, we had actually been talking like a lot in the DMs, or relatively
in
speaking.
the DMs.
Right. So like I'm super down for that. But yeah, I find it hard when people come to me because like they see that I'm so good, I guess if you will, in my videos at like presenting things, so they're thinking, I'm sure he'll be good in a conversation, but it's like I have to know something. Like, you got to give me something about you. You know what I mean? Because then once I get a gauge of like what you like to talk about and like how you hold down the conversation, because it's different for everyone. Yeah, I can super like fit in, and this would be great. But yeah, people coming to me, seeing me as some sort of like, I guess, identity, which I am. I'm aware. I know like you click into my channel and it's like a product. But when they come to me as a person and they're like, oh hey, can you give me that level of polish? It's like, no. I'm incapable.
I would hope people wouldn't expect that from you, because like again, when I talk to people, it's just like, oh, I just have a couple questions, or like I just want to know your quick thoughts on something, and I'm like, okay, but I've got to explain everything. And like, yeah, I think that's just our long form content brains being like, wait, I have to research for this call.
Literally.
I need to know what you're asking so that I can have my sources. Okay, we are reaching the end. I'm losing my, I almost said mind, which is true, but also voice.
Extra.
Okay, so our last little bit. What now? Now that you are at nearly 1.5 milli, and also, were you serious about the Paul Brothers series?
Actually, interestingly enough, a lot of people thought I was kidding when I was like, my next series is going to be about the Paul Brothers, because I said it in like a really joking way, but I actually have a really unpopular opinion about both of them. Which,
I can't wait.
Yeah, so I'm going to explore that in the video, because it's the kind of thing where if I tweeted it,
you'd get attacked.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where even if I made a short video and I didn't back up what I have to say about them, I know I would just get raked through the coals. So I'm kind of trying to feel out my own opinion with this one. I'm kind of trying to be like, I have a suspicion, I have a hunch. So right now, oh gosh, I'm consuming a lot of content from the Paul Brothers, which let me just tell you,
that's an
actual fever dream is the best way I can put it. Like, I click into a Logan Paul video and I'm like, who is this for? What is happening? Why am I seeing like movie level production value mixed with middle school jokes? Like, who is this for? It's clearly not for me. How did X amount of people watch this? Why is this like David Dobrik on drugs? Like, it's legitimately mind-numbing. And I'm starting with Logan Paul. I know I might not even make it through the Paul series. I might be calling in from like the hospital because I went into a coma. But yeah, I'm basically unfortunately consuming their content so I can get more in touch with my own feelings about how they've destroyed this platform, basically. I don't think that's unpopular. YouTube has made so many changes, literally in direct response to things that the Paul Brothers have done to this poor platform. So that'll be fun on the one hand to explore, like, hey, it's crazy how we've let these two people have this much of an impact on us, and now we have to work around them every single time. And I think that's going to be the easy part. I could go on about that right now. But no, the hard part is going to be like, you know what, though? I have this weird opinion on both of them as people, and I want to explore that too. But yeah, no, it's hard because I keep sitting down. I'm like, today I'm going to work on this video. And then I pull up Logan Paul's channel, and it's like, just kidding.
Yeah, no. That's the hard part, I'm sure. It's just like actually forcing yourself to watch enough of it to get a fair picture.
Because, like, I think that's the really common commentary joke is, like, it's easy to go for, oh, guys, pray for me because I had to watch this content. And it's, like, even me making the beauty series video, yes, it got really annoying because I have no interest in makeup personally. So, like, watching it doesn't, like, do anything for me. But I didn't hate it because I was like, okay, these are still like personalities. Tati Westbrook is still a person, and she's interesting in my opinion. Jeffree Star might be somewhat of a villain, but it's hard to deny that this is interesting content. Whereas now I'm watching Jake Paul and Logan Paul, and it's like, I don't like these people as people. What they are giving me is not something I want to take. But so many people, like, they talk about them on a surface level, which I think they lend themselves to because they do big things very publicly. They'll have these big scam conventions or they'll do these weird gambly things. And it's
like the business workshops and all of that.
Yeah, but because they have so much to criticize on the surface level, I've actually found that they get away with so much on a deeper level that I think any adult doesn't want to go far enough into their channel to find.
Oh
but
my
yeah,
God.
once I started
I cannot
realizing,
wait for this.
right. And that's the thing too, because it's like, if you really think about it, when Logan Paul came into the world's collective consciousness because of the Suicide Force incident, we were all shocked and we were like, oh my gosh, kids are watching this. This is terrible. And then he, the video got removed and he apologized. I've had a severe and continuous lapse in judgment. And then he went back to his world and we went back to our world. And so for the past couple of years or year or so, he's still been creating content and nobody has been watching it except these kids. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, hold the heck on. There are some weird things going on. You know what I mean? It's super interesting. So yeah, I'm psyched. I am absolutely psyched to go into this in depth.
That's the thing I think that is, again, unique about your channel is like, yes, any commentary channel can take, a video or two and, make fun of it or talk through why it's bad or even like do a bit of a deep dive about a history. But like to really take the time where you're like, okay, this might take me months, but I'm going to commit to like trying to understand this as deeply as I can. Like, again, that's something that the average viewer definitely does not have the patience or interest to do. So it's like, yes, thank you for doing the Lord's work, as the names say. And now I'm like, okay, after I stop recording this, if you want to tell me what your thought is, that's fine, but you don't have to. Maybe it'll be a secret,
a little surprise.
But wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it is a problem that like I mean, adults, like commentary channels have to kind of let them off the hook because like, what are you going to do? Like make a reaction to every single one of their videos or like every week react to all of their uploads in a week? Like it's not feasible for us to monitor and police all their content. And why would we? I mean, yes, it gets views because people hate the Paul brothers, so you'll watch it. But like also, if it doesn't do anything to stop it, like what's the point of us continuing to monitor it? So yeah, it's like these big scandals come up and everyone talks about it and how bad it is for children, and then we have to go back to normal because what do we do? So wow, that's a big project of you to
yes.
And both of them, there's not even just one, there's brothers.
Right, dear gosh.
That's a lot. Some idea that I thought of was that kind of your channel, at least your bigger channels, theme now, at least for the moment, is like exposing the biggest YouTubers in a very broad sense. But I thought it's kind of like the antithesis of Shane Dawson's documentaries, which is so ironic because obviously you talked about Shane and how bad his documentaries are. But like, I find that so interesting. And again, it's it's funny because Shane's documentaries were almost a twist, like exposing the good side of the bad YouTubers. And you're like, psych, let's twist it again. And there's still more bad shit to unearth. So like, oh God, it's a lot. And that's why commentary is so interesting because there's always more to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yes, my very last question.
Ooh.
Where's the damn podcast?
All right, so this is something that so many people have been waiting for. And the answer is, honestly, I did not expect that much of a response because I posted the first podcast episode and I was like, I'm going to do a couple of quirky things. I'm going to put on a suit. I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to like drink water a bunch of times. I'm going to make it like a, something really fun and lighthearted. I did not realize people connected to that so hard. People were so into the podcast that I was like, well, now I can't just, half do it. So what I'm currently doing behind the scenes is I'm actually gathering a team of people to help me produce this podcast. Because when I come back with it, I don't want to just every now and then, post a video and then people wait the next 6 months. So even though it might be like a bit before I come back with episode 2 of that podcast, but when I do, it's going to be consistent because I'm going to have people in the background working, which I'm like fortunate enough to do because of the stuff I'm getting from my other endeavors. So yeah, the answer is the podcast, even though it may have been quiet on the channel, it has actually been growing, expanding, and turning into something kind of unexpected in the background. So all I can really say about that is y'all are not ready for the podcast.
Can I say projects in the works?
Yes.
Secret project coming up? Wow, that's wild. That kind of echoes exciting. Like my feelings about any sort of extra content where I'm like, okay, next I want to like post more. I want to post more of that, or I want to do my podcast. I'm like, oh no, but I'm still just one person and I'm still a student, which is the biggest problem for me right now. But it's going to take me a lot more time to be able to be mentally ready for that, which is something I did not expect when it comes to like hiring a team to help you.
Oh yeah.
But that is awesome. That's going to be really great. And I hope that it, you know, takes some stress off of your shoulders, and
yeah,
I'm sure it's going to be good. All right. So that is the end of my interview. Goodbye. I'm like, see ya. Do you have any final thoughts or words after, you know, squeezing out everything that I just asked you?
No, actually, I can't wait to see how this comes together in a video about me.
I know. Isn't it great making a video about you? This has ended up being much longer than I expected, but of course it did, because that's how literally every one of my videos happens. Do you want to say an outro?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for making it this far into the video. Make sure to drink water. That's all I got.
Wow, that is so inspiring. And as someone who never drinks water, I will heed your advice later, maybe, off camera.
And that is the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you listened all the way to the end, please leave a comment or let me know on Twitter or something if you're listening to this on a podcast app, because wow, you really love me and D'Angelo. D'Angelo and I. Once again, thank you so much, D'Angelo, for participating in this podcast. It was great to talk with you. I hope we get to Skype again soon, because I could chat about this all day. Thank you guys so much for listening, and stay tuned for another Previously Gifted episode. Eventually. Soon. Maybe. I mean, no guarantees. We know. Okay, thanks. Bye.